What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Apex, the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the holiday season is upon us, so we took a little bit of a break there for Thanksgiving and all that stuff going on. It might be a little bit of a streakier schedule as we get ready for Champs, but we do have the very first episode of our Champs preview getting ready for Sapporo. We cannot wait. It's about 6-7 weeks away, so we're just kind of getting ready at this point, trying to get into the zone mentally and just be ready for it, man. We're just trying to be ready for it, and we're feeling good. We're feeling great, but let's check in with the boys real quick. I just want to say, it's freezing cold inside the studio. I got 2 jackets on. I got long pants. I got long johns. 40 degrees. It's really bad. Don, how are you doing over there?
I can't wait to punch you in the face in a month. It is 3 degrees where I'm at, and no, I'm not in Chicago or Canada or places where you expect it to be really, really cold. I'm in just not those places, and it's still somehow colder than Chicago. So yeah, doing really great for the mental, just with a heater behind me and the heater in the house. It's
it's about the same as me.
It's fantastic.
It's 3 Fahrenheit today. I wasn't sure. I was like, what is he crying about 3 Fahrenheit?
Feel you
what
guys.
does that equal?
Nah, dude,
Negative
I really
16. That's a cold day. That's a cold day. Yeah.
See, I got the approval from a Canadian, so I can officially say it's cold. All right.
Yeah.
So,
no, yeah.
Like,
we're all real cold.
Like, it's cold. Is it windy?
No. Yeah, the wind chill makes it feel like, I think, less than 0.
Because that's the biggest thing, is if like it's windy. Because for the most part, like, that's cold, but like we might go. I go skiing in that, no problem. But like if it's like, there's been some negative 35 days here, which would be, hold on. You ever experienced a negative 35 day, Wyatt?
Feels like it right now.
Celsius. What would that be?
For those on Spotify, I'm shaking my head.
Negative 30. It'd be negative 31 Fahrenheit. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced a day like that.
Wind chills, I have.
Yeah, it's been pretty.
And crazy. I was working an outside delivery job during that time. It was absolutely awful.
That would suck. No, I've
not fun.
Indoors.
My beard and my mustache froze because it was that bad.
That sucks.
It was a terrible day. Terrible day.
I've had that before. I've had
my
like,
friends
my
texted me
freeze.
My friends texted me a screenshot of my Snapchat character, and he was just an ice block, and he said, "Well, Don's dead." So that was my friend's encouragement that day while I'm freezing, trying to work for barely any money, but it's fine. It's great.
Yeah,
anyway,
no, the cold, man.
Outside of that, and outside of Wyatt absolutely gaslighting me, things are great. So
that's
excited
good
for Champs. Watching scrims basically every day. Shout out working from home, but yeah, it's gonna be a fun one, and obviously looking forward to the Red Bull event. Going to be there in person, watching. Hopefully support Enoch as well. That he's gonna be playing in it. That's why he's not with us, because he is recording. He's flying there and getting ready to play. So definitely looking forward to that event. It's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, Jumbo, I think you're going as well. No, you're not going.
No,
you're not
in Japan.
going.
I'll say that.
Yeah. There we go.
I will be in Japan. Yeah, it should be fun.
How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm freaking excited to be back. I noticed today we haven't had an episode on the YouTube in like a month.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
Which we have done some audio episodes in between that time.
We did 2 audio episodes. So for anybody who just watches the YouTube, if you do want the extra content, and it is there. We've had 2 audio episodes that we uploaded with Enoch, and I think one with Jumba as well. So they were there. We just didn't feel like there was enough Apex comp related things to throw up on the YouTube, but there are those episodes available for you if you want to go back and listen to them and just kind of see how everything was going with the fellas. But boys, let's get into the nitty gritty here. We are getting ready and doing our Champs preview for this year 5 of Apex Legends. It is going to be in Sapporo, Japan once again. Last year, I was on site. It was incredible. Jumbo will be back this year in the same venue. I expect it to be incredible once again. It's an experience. If you ever get the chance to go, we're going to have it again in Sapporo next year. I would start planning now, because I can tell you from being there, boots on the ground, it was awesome. It was fantastic. It's an experience I'll never forget. And on top of just the Apex stuff, you also have the stuff with your friends, family, whoever you decide to go with. That's a quick little advertisement for people who were thinking about going. But let's get into the actual games themselves that are going to be taking place in Sapporo. And what we're going to do right now, we're going to break down Group A a little bit later on. But I did want to take a quick moment to look over at all of these groups because they will be playing. It does matter in some cases for some of these teams who are on the fringe. Where do we see the group of death boys? We've got 4 groups, A, B, C, and D. A lot of them have some very strong teams, but is there one that stands out to you as the one group that is going to be a firing squad?
Had we talked about this before or no? Or am I thinking of maybe for the last land? I think
It was probably for the last one.
Or maybe I'm thinking of actually for Pro League. Yeah, I'm thinking for Pro League. Dude, let's take a look real quick. I mean,
you look at the heavy hitters in Group A. You have Alliance, 100 Thieves, Wolves. You could put Sentinels on the fringe, I think. And then you have Citadel, Roadhouse, Legacy, Mango, Boogie, and Las Vegas. So that's one.
I think you just got to go with C. I feel like C has Falcons, Liquid, Virtus Pro, TSM, which are all good teams. I mean, I know like the other teams, like, I mean, Unlimit was like pretty good in the past. So you got Unlimit in there. COD's here. We haven't seen them with Kim, but like those are 2 strong squads. FaZe Clan kind of like snuck their way in. But they should be a good squad. Like if you look at previous years, they should have been great this year. I don't know. I will say I feel like Apex this year has somewhat balanced out in a way, if that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Like I think it's we haven't seen Shopify. I think is the only team right now that like it seems like they're like the ones that are like ultra dominant, just for like most recent. Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say probably Group C for me, because kind of breaking it down a little bit, obviously Falcons and T-Law, like those, just in terms of just the star power, like those are 2 stacked rosters that obviously just on paper it's gonna be fun to watch, but just seeing Hal and Zero have to square off every single group stage and kind of seeing, because obviously fans are going to be comparing, oh, did they beat out the other guys like that day, or did they have a 3v3 that went down between the 2 teams to win a game potentially? Like, so you're going to have that storyline. You're going to have, I mean, one of my opinions, 5 years, who's been a roster that's been pretty underrated this year, has been performing very well and has gotten top 10 at lands this year. I think they're going to be very solid. FaZe and Unlimit are 2 very big wildcard teams that will fight anybody and will be very aggressive in a group stage setting, especially because I definitely think you see a lot more of those aggressive tendencies in groups. So definitely expect a lot of firepower out of those 2 teams, because even with FaZe's struggles, we've obviously seen them too, where they've absolutely popped off. I mean, the number of times we saw during Pro League, they would like win the first game of a set or like the second game. It's like, oh, like these guys are here to play. Sometimes they fell off, but like, you could still see that firepower. Like it's a team you definitely have to watch out for. Virtus Pro, they are a pretty steady team, done pretty decently well during scrims so far. But I mean, again, you have an IGL with Empty. Usually his rosters tend to perform very well, and especially with how Lou and Slayer have done it past lands. I think that's a very formidable team. TSM's been kind of in a decline with stuff lately. They haven't played as well as we saw them maybe when they first started out as a roster. But again, when you have the roster with Panic and Dupe and Gent, it only takes one, good game or good set to really get them going. We saw at EWC where they won was it the winners round 2 or something like that? They won one of their groups at that LAN. So they have that potential.
It was the first group.
Yeah.
The first
yeah.
day.
So if they can find that again, I just think that if you really go down the list, if we're really looking at 1 through 10, I think Group C is the one for me. And I didn't even mention Alcatia, Roto Order. They got guys like Beltsera coming back on the LAN. And then JD Gaming's definitely a pretty big wild card too. So Group C for me.
I was going to ask, is Citadel Gaming the old Noctum Esports? Was that Noctum Esports at one time?
So Team Nemesis is what we saw them as at EWC. Okay. They do have a couple members of that old Noctum roster, like Remix Powers is probably the one you remember from that roster.
They were like, when I look at Group A like is maybe like a contender for that title, because like you said, you have Alliance, you have 100 Thieves, Citadel. Like again, when it came to like EU, was just like probably the next best fighting team behind Alliance. Like they freaking dropped a lot of kills in the first split. I can't remember the numbers for split 2. And then Wolves at like freaking EWC, they were a shock. I remember us looking at Wolves and be like, who's Wolves? And then they come out and get 5th and like, you know, had some pretty crazy moments there and actually almost even won it all. Like they were in that top 3 in the final game. Like they had the chance to close it out. So they're there. Like Sentinels, they've been good, but they haven't really, I think, like really got the performance they want on LAN. And then the like, you know, the rest of the group I think has just kind of regressed this year. Like we haven't seen Legacy, like Nizo, Higuaras, and Yanya like do what they've typically done in the past. Like Roadhouse, like we haven't seen Luca and Blast like perform as good as they did as last year. Boogie Borders, like those guys haven't like performed. Like have they even been on land this year? Pana, Raki, Metro? I don't think so. So yeah, so there's just a lot there of like lots of names who've like been good in the past, but like just
a lot of
haven't
question marks on the back end.
Yeah, like 2025, you haven't seen them be the best versions of themselves. So
yeah, I was thinking about this too. When you look at some of these groups, there are teams and players that you want to lump in there, and I do think that subconsciously there is that split two kind of situation where there were some teams that, because the split didn't matter as much, maybe just didn't have the worst split, but also didn't really showcase themselves well. And it's hard to blame them for that, for how everything was kind of set up going into split two. But I look at I won't argue with Group C. I think that's clearly the number one. But I do think there's an argument to be made for Group D. And the reason why is I feel like VK Gaming, there are going to be people who forget the dominance of VK Gaming in that one of their players was missing for most of that split too, right, Don?
All split too. Yeah.
All of split two.
QQ. Yeah,
is he going to be back for LAN?
He will
still
be.
says he's inactive. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
he
cool.
will be back for LAN. I've seen him at least a couple times. They don't scrim like a crazy amount just because of like the ping and stuff, obviously. But he's been there at least a couple times, and yeah, he'll definitely be back. So
yeah, so you have VK who's won the most recent LAN. You have Ninjas in Pajamas, who I think placed top 3 or 4 in that LAN.
Top 3. Yeah.
You have Grow Gaming, which is the old Furia roster. We know what they can do on when they're hot, you know. Then you have E36, who it seems like every time we go to LAN, we're talking about them deep into the tournament. And then Go Next is kind of hit or miss, but they do have the firepower. And I believe they won the Pro League for... No, they got second. They got second behind Alliance, right? In EMEA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And then Navi is obviously the team that won the first time we were in Japan. So there is still a good amount of teams that are sitting in that Group D that I think could surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me with Group D is that if we see these rosters at their best, I definitely could agree with that. Because again, like when we see VK Game, and obviously they've won a LAN this year, and IP has had moments where they've just been. I mean, they even had it. I think it was during like the split one, like regional final, if I remember right. Like they were going pretty crazy. And won a few games during that regional final, and obviously did very well like at EWC, like I said. But yeah, I think Go Next was arguably the second best EMEA team for most of the year when they came together for split two. So yeah, at their best, I just think that there is a lot of like questions of consistency with a lot of those rosters. So that's why I rank it a little bit lower. But I definitely think it could be a group that surprises people. I think it's one we definitely need to keep our eye on, because if E36 has come out, like we've seen them a couple times at LANs, if NIP comes out and wins a bunch of 3v3s, it's a group that can definitely turn a lot of people on its heads and be like, oh, like they actually are pretty solid. So
I think that's what like a lot of this year comes down to. I feel like there haven't been a ton of teams that from start to finish this year have just looked their best. I'm not saying that there isn't any teams. Like there are like obviously like handful, but like still like nonetheless, like I just don't think that there's been many teams that like have looked like 100% consistent all year. And so like being that we still even got 6 weeks, like I just don't know what to expect with a lot of them, right? Like are we going to get, like Donnie said at the beginning, are we going to get like the best versions of themselves, or are we going to see them show up and then unfortunately fall to their to the expectations? But yeah.
Now, the other big major change, other than just the groups that these teams are placed in, is that we are no longer going on Broken Moon. And instead, what has been entered into the rotation has been the latest version of Olympus. We had a big discussion about it on, I think, one of the last episodes that was audio only, me, Don, and Jumba talking about that map and if we thought it was going to be added in. Don kind of had a hunch that maybe they were looking at adding that in, and it ended up coming correct. They've removed Broken Moon. Olympus is in there now. I've gotten to play it a decent amount, and I think that from my perspective, I had fun on it. And I think that maybe it has a chance, but there still is a major problem surrounding that turbine area of the map. And I feel like getting some of those central POIs in a POI draft where lots of money is on the line and you're competing at a high level, I think like a Hammond's Lab drop could be really, really bad for you in certain circumstances. So I don't know how I feel about it. It seems like some of the players have mixed reactions. Can't really see what everybody thinks at once, but I did see Waltzy put a GIF of a guy doing the gun in mouth motion when he found out Olympus was going to be in the rotation. So that is what it is. But what did you guys think, Jumba?
I mean, I'm trying to think of a lot of like what I shared last time, and that I think I like the big thing for me was that I kind of said like I at the very least trust the pros to figure it out, like, and they will, because they have in the past on short notices with big changes to the game, figured it out and then end up liking it afterwards anyways. Um what I guess I didn't fully consider though when we talked about this last time is it is unfortunate for some teams that are like we were talking about VK Gaming who can't scrim as much because of ping issues and everything, where they're kind of getting thrown into the Wild West in the most important tournament of the year. So I yeah, I'm a little bit upset about that because I think those POIs have improved the POI draft format where there's a lot more loot in a lot of those bigger POIs now. We said this on the audio version, but I said like there's some of those POIs which are so big when you drop there, no team will ever be able to loot them by themselves. So there's that, which is the big thing. But I do think that Olympus still has a fundamental problem of everything funneling through that center of the map around the Hammond Labs area. So, and also too, it's got so much open terrain that what's going to really matter is when is this map played? If it's played in your back half versus it being played in your front half, it's going to depend on like who you have available to you. Because like if you have like those Newcastles, the Ramparts, you could play that map a lot different compared to if you don't have them because they were banned in the first two games, for example, right? So that's going to be what's really interesting to approach. And am I happy about it? I think from a viewer perspective, mixing things up always makes it entertaining. From a competitive integrity standpoint, I'm trying to think of the competitors and like what would make them feel the best. I do see some of their pain and suffering that they have to try and figure this out so fast.
Don, what do you think about Olympus? Because I think it's a lot more than just the map being entered in. I think it does have to come down to a lot of what Jumba said right there as well, which is that competitive integrity. Do we feel like this map carries enough competitive integrity to feel confident about it in the biggest tournament of the year? Because you're talking about Olympus now. Like, I don't think we ever thought we'd get to this conversation with that map involved in the comp scene. Here we are now. Does it hold up?
Yeah. So just from watching scrims, and there was a while that they weren't running Olympus and scrims because there was a bug, something going on with the map that was causing people to crash and like was throwing a bunch of issues. So they didn't have the map in play. So that already cut out time for these guys to practice on it and get used to rotates and things like that. And it's not obviously going to be in every set at the LAN. It's not going to be in every set that they're practicing. So when they do, so I actually looked at it so people can be mindful when it's going to happen. Each team will play on it once during the group stages. It's going to be the last group stage match for each team or for each group. So it'll be maps 4, 5, and 6 that last day of group stages, and then it's not going to be played at all during the bracket stage. It's going to be only played finals after that, map 2 and then map 7, and then obviously further down the road if we get there. So that last group stage where teams are going to be trying to get the most points possible to make that cutoff, and you're playing a map that you have basically no professional experience on it outside of practice, which, let's be honest, it's not the most organized thing, especially when it's a new map. Like, if you want chaos as a fan, this is everything you could have asked for. If you're a professional player that's playing for $200 million and first place is 600,000 of that, I would be pissed. I'm not gonna lie to you.
My man just said $200 million.
2 million, whatever. I can't do math.
Playing for $2 million.
That's why I'm on a podcast and not in a math field. But anyway, so but just like the thought of that as like a professional player, when especially a lot of these teams have coaches and analysts now that try to go through all these things, get the ring data, time out their rotations, time out where Evo spawns are going to be, like all this stuff, and you don't have like multiple like LAN days or Pro League days of playing on this map. Like, it's very worrying from like a competitive integrity standpoint, because you want to see the players at their best. You want to see them playing maps they know, playing rotations they know. Yeah, there's going to be some surprises because, like, if you do everything by the book, what's the fun in that? And or how you going to really beat the better teams, like we've seen when better teams lose out is when they do get surprised, right? So, like, you need to throw in wrinkles and stuff like that from time to time. But generally, you do want to follow, like, at least a certain game plan of rotating at this time to, like, get out of the way of this team and not get caught, like, in a fight you don't need to take. But I feel like at this point, we're going to see a ton of that. I think especially with it being the last couple maps and the last group stage that everyone's going to be playing, I think we're just going to see chaos, because we're going to probably see characters like Valk banned. We're probably going to see characters like Caustic banned, probably the Alter banned. So, like, we're going to see a lot of teams not playing their best comps, a lot of teams playing, again, on a map that they're not used to every rotation, especially because teams on bad ping, this will be the first time they're playing this map on equal ground. So, like,
that's what I'm saying.
There's a ton of things in play here that it just feels like, from their side of things, playing wise, it just doesn't really set up very well, unfortunately, for fans. And for, like, me and you, Wyatt, when we're watch partying and stuff, it's going to be chaos. And, like, I'm kind of ready to see that. But my competitive hat is, this might not look very good.
What my thing is?
I'm a little worried.
Is, do we think a new map being added to the map pool will increase viewer engagement and then viewership numbers, and maybe viewership, I guess interactiveness is still engagement? Do we think it's going to increase it that much to weigh out the cons that it has on the competitors, right? Like, that's sometimes like what I wonder, because that's what I'd assume from like an EA perspective, like you're trying to think of. You're trying to say, well, this is going to get way more eyes, because we can say we got a new map that we just reworked, but maybe that's not even what they're looking for. Maybe they're trying to look at it as like to market the map so that more people who are watching want to join the game to play that map, which does that also a thing that outweighs like what we have here? Because like it's a new map they just did. They want to get it out in front of as many eyes as possible to market it to people to like play the game. And so my thing is like, do all those outweigh the benefits of like freaking making these pro players go through that? And that, if there's guys who for the last year were the best Broken Moon team, now don't get to play Broken Moon in like the best freaking, or in the biggest tournament of the year, like, is that fair that they just had that robbed from them?
I also wonder about the quality, because although the competitors have to be like heavily considered, you do have to almost cater it a little bit more towards the viewer. And I wonder what that does. I just wonder what Olympus is going to look like for the viewer, because you could make the argument that in the open, despite the format being super chaotic and kind of crazy, like, how are they doing this? And it had like a certain feel to it when you're in the arena in New Orleans. And then, there's all these different games going on. At the end of the day, the final was probably the least climactic and one of the worst finals of all time, because it was like a very minimal amount of games. I think it was the 6th game. And it was basically, you could see Falcons winning from a mile away. So it ended up being very anticlimactic. You know,
And it
people
wasn't
weren't.
just that. Falcons and Alliance was steamrolled that lobby because there was just
Mhm.
so many teams that didn't have the experience
Yeah.
like in that situation. Now we'll have all more experienced teams, but I like what you're saying, like in the sense of like, does adding this in get you like does the randomness of adding Olympus and maybe the chaos of what happened make sure that you get the best teams in the finals? Now, like Donnie said, at least Olympus is not in the bracket stage, and it is double elimination bracket. So we're going
Yeah.
back to the old format we know from year 4. So
And not
continue,
just
sorry.
the best teams and all that kind of stuff. You got to think of like, will it produce the best moments? And that's where I'm kind of worried, because you already mentioned earlier, Jumba, that if it's early and you still have a Newcastle available, then it's fine, right? Because Newcastle can kind of create areas for you that don't otherwise exist. Now that we know it's near the end, that's tough, because does that mean in our finals that we're just going to have like a, you know, ring 3 12 squads left situation, which is like, I don't think that's the most
He
fun
said it was game 7,
competitive
game 2 and game 7. Game 7 is like
near the
prime
end, if not
position.
the end.
It's prime position for the tournament to end.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't always end there, but like a lot of times it's like, oh, it's gonna end here, and then there's like usually a fluke. Like NIP probably could have won or should have won in game 7. NIP, ROC both had a really good chance, and then they didn't because someone shut them down. But there was a really good chance it was ending in game 7. Falcons won in 6. I'm sure that there was someone who could have won in game 7 in the last Sapporo. Like I'm sure if we went back, and I'm trying to think, there was a big thing that happened in game 7, which I think it was actually Navi's first win, and then they won again in 9. But yeah, if I'm thinking right, there's like it was like Falcons fucking like Alliance alive in the last like 3 and both died. And so, anyways, and then just it's all to say that like 7 is where the tournaments are like, oh, we're about to end. We're in end game territory.
Yeah, and that's what I worry about, because I overall like the map. I think the changes that they made are actually really, really good. I think the choke points on middle portions of the map are less oppressive, but they're still pretty oppressive. Like, it's very hard to get into certain POIs on this new version of Olympus, and maybe they wanted to make it that way. But once again, I come back to, does it make it fun for the viewer in that moment? Because that's going to be key. That's going to be a big deal. You want to have the good moments, because yes, like Jumba said, you want to have the good teams. The teams, you know, they'll change. You want to have those moments, like the howl coming down from the heavens type moments. And will this give us that? I hope it does, or I hope it has the potential to at least withhold with all the other maps. I'm worried though that we're just going to get like a very quick and sound end to the game 2 and the game 7, and in a way that's kind of just not fun. And that's what I worry about.
There's about like the reason why people like for comp wise like Stormpoint and E-District, for example, and even World's Edge, is that like I'm gonna just focus more on Stormpoint and E-District, but I'll bring in World's Edge after. Is the balance of like zones to PO, like where zones could end, and then how POIs work, right? And so what I mean that is that like on Stormpoint and E-District, most POIs on that map, with the exception of 2 to 3 on both map, if you land at, you can make a game out of it. Like you can win your game. Because like they're quality POIs, and like the map's big enough that you're able to rotate and have multiple options and everything like that. And then the way the zones end, it's very rare that you're going to be like, oh, we are in such a solid freaking zone position here that we just insta auto win this game, right? Like you always have to be kind of smart. There's spots on Olympus. One that comes to mind is like gardens, that area with like, then there's the lifeline like POI, and like to the back left there's like a lot of open terrain in that back area, and if the zone pulls there, whoever's landing at those POIs pretty much like is guaranteed to win. Like you cannot cross that open. There's just no fucking way to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And then to the flip side is that like the POIs just like don't have the balance for rotating. A lot of what I said with like rotating through the map, whereas like Rift, for example, you land there and you have the teleporter, so they're just like you speed up your rotate by minutes almost, right? Which is insane for teams. So it's like it just becomes insanely disproportionate and disbalanced between how those zones end, the open terrain, and then how you rotate, because one team gets like a super big advantage over other teams who get fucked. So Yeah, it's just like there's no balance there. Like with World's Edge, the reason why I think it balances out a little bit is I think World's Edge actually is even getting to be too small of a map for comp, but at the same time, I like that. I think you need variety. You can't just have massive maps for everything. Um, but the pros have just played World's Edge for fucking 5 years now, so they know how to play those games down to a T. So that's why I think World's Edge still works. And World's Edge is also a relatively balanced map with how the zones end and the POIs and such and so on.
Yeah, so interesting. I just wanted to bring that up just because that is going to be a major change coming in here, and we talked about it a lot. If you want to go listen to what I we didn't just talk about Olympus joining the map rotation. We also talked about how we would fix it, and what we think would be better moving forward. And I think we might even do that, bring that back up again in the future. Just
the
because.
last interesting thing I'll say too, I was just going to throw before you move on, is that freaking the pros also hated fucking Broken Moon. Like
That's true.
That's the thing. I wonder if now because they're practiced on it, they would have preferred it. But like every pro we talked to did not like that map. So I don't really know. Like I know like they said like the jumping off the bridge thing with freaking like Waltzy and the GIF. But I wonder if they said Broken Moon was sticking in there, if they still would have been just as upset because they don't like the map.
And I guess I felt like Broken Moon wasn't that bad. And once again, I'm not playing in it.
You used to hate it, I thought.
No, I hate Broken Moon like playing on it. But as far as like a comp map, when I compare it to Olympus, at least it has terrain, like a lot of it. Whereas Olympus does kind of have a lot of kind of just, if you think about walking inside Turbine, like I'm just trying to picture areas on Olympus where the game can end. And there's like very few that I think would be like good, and a lot of the ones I am thinking of are the newer POIs, like that would have interesting end games. Like Summers University, I feel like would actually be an interesting end game near the back there. So I feel like Broken Moon has more of that. And I know, Donnie, you talked about Broken Moon being a little bit too oppressive with choke points as well, so maybe it just slots right into the Broken Moon spot. But this really is like the dragon meme where two of the heads are like badass, and then the one is just kind of tongue out off to the side. Olympus is that one. Broken Moon and Olympus are that dragon head of the three-headed dragon.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like for entertainment value, Olympus is going to be amazing to watch because we just don't know what's going to happen. From the competitive side of it, it's going to be a big question mark of if that's really going to work. In my personal opinion, I think it's more of a negative, but games 4, 5, and 6, that last group stage, who knows what these teams are going to do that need 10, 15 points extra. It's going to be a wild one to watch, those last group stage games.
I guess my thing is I like watching Apex when you can, especially when a team wins and you can like crazy unpredictable moments are always fun and you should have those. So I guess I'm being a little bit I can't think of a better word other than weird here to say, but like I like when you can see a team like flesh out a strategy from point A to point B and like do that throughout the game. And maybe they have to play on their toes a bit, but you see that like their knowledge and everything comes to play. And exactly what Donnie said, games 4, 5, and 6, when these guys are on the cusp, and then on top of being on the like wild stuff always happens in those games when they're on the cusp. But now that they're on the cusp and now they're playing on Olympus, like it's going to be like competitive Apex fundamentals are flying out the door completely.
Yeah, so it could be fun. Like I said, it could be chaotic in a fun way. I was just more worried about it being chaotic in a bad way, but we'll just have to see. And we have no choice anyway. It's going to happen, so we better get ready for it and buckle up. Now, boys, let's take a quick break, and then on the other side, we're going to get into Group A and go through some of these teams a little bit more in depth and just kind of get ready and get you guys ready for champs coming up here in just a couple weeks. Let's get it. Okay, here we go. Group A. Group A. First of our series, 4 weeks. We're going to be having all the different groups going through and talking about some of these teams, giving you information that you may not have known about with some of these players, some of the squads, some things to keep an eye on for your own predictions, maybe some prize picks, maybe, just throwing that out there. It's totally up to you, but we want to give you guys that info and impart some of our info on to you. So let's kick it off with Group A. We've got a pretty hefty group here. The teams go as follow: Alliance, 100 Thieves, Wolves Esports, Citadel Gaming, Sentinels, Roadhouse, Legacy, Team Mango, Boogie Borders, and the Las Vegas Inferno. And boys, what better team to start with here than Alliance themselves? One of the greatest teams in Apex currently, if not the greatest, depending on who you're talking to. Alliance with Hackus, Effect, and Unlucky. They are absolutely insane, led by their IGL Hackus. He is an absolute dog. We do have an interview with him on this channel if you want to go check him out. Really cool, interesting backstory, military background. He's got it all. But I'm going to throw it on down to Jumbo first. When you look at a team like Alliance, I feel like there's not going to be a whole lot of, who do you think is going to win this lands? Give me 5 teams that you could win it where people aren't putting Team Alliance in there. They are that heavy of a favorite. They're always in the fight, especially in these finals. It seems like every single time we get to a finals lobby recently, they're at least leading after the first 3 games or so. And then, hijinks ensue. But they're always in the mix. What are you seeing from Alliance here? Obviously, EMEA has gotten a lot weaker. And that's something we can talk about in the future as well. But it doesn't really matter because when they're outside of EMEA, they still dominate.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's not even too much technical to say. Like, they didn't do great and didn't have their best performance at EWC. They bounced back, winning Pro League again for, I'm losing count many times in a row. Maybe it's not. It could only be 2, but I'm pretty sure that they won both back-to-back, or at least one last year as well, while dropping 260 kills. That was 35 more kills than the next team on the leaderboard in EMEA. And like you said, a lot of people say that EMEA has regressed in their competitive ability, but it doesn't matter. Alliance, I think, still may be the number 1 team going in. Just because some of the NA teams have all moved around squads. Like, we haven't seen them proven on land yet, which before EWC, Alliance might have gone on the longest top 3 streak of any other team in Apex. So at land. So yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. They're going to come in. They're going to put up a lot of kills. They're probably going to jump to a really fast start with freaking group stages. And I think literally the biggest thing with Alliance, when you see them perform Battlelands, and I'm going back before the Unlucky Effect days I'm bringing up, is that I think that they almost get a little bit too, how do I say this? They have a bit too much fun in the group stages, slaying out all the teams, and then it stops them from locking in on finals. So yeah. So anyway, that, if they can just make sure to stay consistent the whole time, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. They're obviously a favorite going into the tournament. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's Alliance, guys, and I love that team at the same time. So they're going to be one of my main teams I'm going in rooting for.
Also, a top contender for absolutely insane clip that is just remembered forever. I feel like Alliance always has one of those where you're like, holy shit, that was absolutely insane.
But over the past couple weeks, all I keep seeing is clip from Unlucky after clip from Unlucky, just 1v3ing teams in fucking scrims, just over and over again. Just, oh my God, screaming on the timeline and all this shit because Unlucky just 1v3'd another team. And that's not even talking about Effect, which again, they didn't have a good finals, but they absolutely balled out in the group stages of fucking EWC, right? Effect was dropping 14 kills per game. So, I mean, one bad day, I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, this team, I'm unsure about what they're going to do. No, I think that I'll put it straight up with the Falcons and split with 0 going to Team Liquid. It's not like Falcons are a weak team, but I just think that because these guys have been together for a year now, that they're probably the most consistent. I know some people don't like saying best if they're not the most recent LAN champion, but they're the most consistent best team going into this tournament.
Donnie, what's the ceiling here? I feel like that's an easy answer, but also what's the floor? I think that's an even more interesting one because I'm gonna say a take right now, and this could be really bad with my jinx.
Dare.
I think it's impossible for them not to make the finals lobby. I literally think it's impossible. They can't.
I thought you were gonna say the opposite. I thought you were gonna say I think they don't make finals.
They can't not make the finals lobby. It's impossible. They will make finals.
I hate that you said that. Go ahead, Donnie.
Yeah, we'll lose any
What's the problem?
of those three
Bro.
if anything happens. But anyway.
Yeah, we're never getting an interview ever again. Like, there's
I'm just
CEO Kelly
It's
really likes
impossible.
me. There's I talk to those two all the time. Their general manager Pontus, and like they're not going to talk to me ever again because I'm associated with you.
Well, it's impossible for them to even. It's not even worth talking about. I think their floor. They literally can't not make finals.
Okay, let's hear from Donnie.
So,
because like every time you say it's a jinx, from Donnie, I think it's like analytical.
I know. I'm dead serious.
I mean, again, the easy answer for the first part is obviously they can win. I mean, they're like Jumba said, they're just one of the most put together teams that honestly I think we've ever seen in Apex history. I don't think that's too far of a reach at all, considering the performances they've put together. I mean, it's gonna be an interesting one to watch because they've had at past lands, especially with Sapporo last year, like when Newcastle was like the character you always were playing. We saw Unlucky in the Newcastle. You got very good at it. Had a lot of crazy moments where he almost clutched and won games that would have won the LAN. But they've kind of shifted away from that. And it almost worries me a little bit because that also almost makes me think that are they going to go for the more aggressive approach? And as good as that is obviously during the group stages, there is a point at when you get the match point. And we saw that with Falcons for how long they were kind of just were cozied up in that house when they won ALGS Open, which obviously the zone pulled in their head, so like of course they're gonna chill. But like they unless they had to take a fight, they were not doing anything besides watching their spot. And that's just one of those things. It's like Alliance can do it. It's just like what do we get in that moment, right? It's very easy for Effect and Unlucky or even Hawkins to want to go make a play. Like all three of them are very capable. Obviously, I think Effect and Unlucky a little bit more because Hawkins, a good portion will probably be on crypto, so he's obviously just going to be watching that stuff out for the most part. But especially when they have like the Valken play, they love the Valku play. I've seen that a ton so far. They just drop on someone that's even a little bit split from their team, and he just Valk nuke them with the rockets, and they just get an easy wipe. But it's just, do they get too dependent on their aggression? Like that's always going to be their question, because if they can balance it out with, like what you saw like when they won EWC in 2024, they made the right play at the right time to clear outside, which won them the game. Can they time that up to win match point? That's the only question I'll ever have for this team, because they're going to do well in the group stages. They usually do well during the bracket stages. It's just what's ultimately going to be the timing of that decision they need to make. Can they avoid that one aggressive decision that puts them out of winning a match point final? That's the only question I ever think for this team.
If you want to put it that way, that's an interesting approach because my thing is I think that there's like, you could count on one hand how many teams could basically be like, this is a play we want to do, but we need to fight this team to do it. And like, that they're have a 90% chance of like executing it. Right.
Yeah.
And like Alliance is one of those teams. And the reason I say that is because like when I say executing it is that they're going to win that fight. Like, I don't just mean like other teams can't follow the plan. I mean, like, no, they're going to follow the plan and then win that fight 90% of the time because that's just how good they are. But like, I see what you're saying with like winning the game. Like, can they make that right decision at the right time to win the game? I think that usually that just comes up to a BR, right? That might not even like fall into their hands and might be fall into a BR because I think they have that ability. Like they could have absolutely done it in Germany. And then at the Open, they won the first two games. So they can win games in a final lobby. It comes down to when they get that opportunity, do they close it out? I think that's a question for everyone. But yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, and I would think too, like, I think what might be more of like something that could happen is when they actually do have a really good spot, if Unlucky and Effect are like too aggressive to try to like create an opening, or like too aggressive trying to hold the side that they get pushed on, like those are the moments that I've seen more often than not where like they actually do have the spot, but then one of them gets like cracked and then they end up going down and then they have to worry about resing them and not holding their spot, which again in a BR when you're in round 4 or 5, teams get a knock. A lot of times they're going to try to go push to wipe out that God spot or like that game, that side on that side of zone or whatever. Those are more the moments I'm probably more worried about because, yeah, I think I agree with you. when they like do make the decision to go take a 3v3, they're a team that they're usually going to execute it. But it's the moments of like when it's almost calm. Do they get overly aggressive? Does one of them get caught out? Those are kind of more the moments I would say I'm more worried about than them like taking the wrong fight at the wrong time.
I would have to the tough thing is that we haven't had a LAN in a long time. So it's like you wonder like how like locked in their mental is coming into it, because the big thing for me is like when you're watching scrims or pro league, I feel like you're gonna and I'll be completely transparent. I have not watched much international scrims this past little bit, but I feel like you're gonna see them not take it as serious, where they're gonna get cracked and like lose games for like stupid plays. But when you watch them in a LAN finals and you listen to their comms, like Hackers keeps them all reeled in, and they know how to like play it right, play it safe, and then strike at the right opportunity. So, I mean, I know I'm defending them hard, but I'm just like I don't even think you're saying anything bad about them either. I'm just like more so having a conversation here.
For sure. And like I said, like if I had to choose, I think more than likely not they're going to be 100% locked in, right? It's just if I'm looking for a weakness and like one thing that could be that bad side, it's going to be that. But yeah, it's a good point. If anybody doesn't have them as like a LAN favorite, I want to know what they're trying to cook, because like there's just not going to be too many situations where you don't see them at least have some sort of voice in the final.
Yeah, last thing I'll say is like I don't know like if I'm throwing it up there as like in the past where we had like, remember whenever people make tier lists and it was always like TSM and Dark Zero in their own tier, and then they had like your S tier and everyone else. I think they still just fit into like that S tier at the top. It's not like a tier above, but like that's basically the LAN favorite teams. So yeah.
Yep.
So then we move into 100 Thieves, another team from the Americas. All the performances in year 5, they've gotten 4th place at the Open. They got 7th place at EWC, and they've been looking really good in these international scrims so far. Obviously, this is Phony as the IGL with Verhulst and Jen Burton. All 3 of those have won LANs in their own respects. Verhulst and Jen Burton have won twice, and Phony he has that one. But this team has, for how it started, they really bounced back in a way. It sounds weird to say that with this team, but it wasn't even that they were doing bad necessarily. It's just not what you expected, because you were feeling like it was like a borderline super team similar to the original formation of Falcons, and it just kind of didn't really start that way. It was much more quiet, much more muted. And then eventually things started kind of coming together for them. They get the performances. A 4th place and a 7th place is nothing to scoff at. They feel like they're firmly in where they want to be. And in kind of a weird way, where in teams in the past, it felt like Phony wasn't really slaying, wasn't doing a whole lot of killing. Whereas with 100 Thieves, he's been doing the bulk of it. He's been getting a ton of kills and has kind of completely changed his play style, while still maintaining that IGL role. So I'll throw it to Jumba first again. This one. Now, I want to throw the same question at you. What is the ceiling and what is the floor here for this team, 100 Thieves?
Yeah, you know what, was going to say the same thing as you. I was going to start it off by saying, like, you know, when you have Jen Burton and Verhulst on your team, a lot of times people talk about like how they are 2 of the greatest controller players to ever touch this game. They've both been in like fragging positions in their previous teams and everything like that. Yet Phony is leading the team in kills for the last split, and I have to look at split 1. You know, he's had the opportunity to like really show that off. So I think that means that this team has a ton of firepower to go around. They've bounced back, like you said. Ceiling, like you said, this with the way they were looking recently is a team that could absolutely win. It feels like I'm happy that they stuck together as long as they did. It feels like they worked out a lot of maybe the kinks. They got some of that chemistry locked down. We know that undeniably Phony's one of the best IGLs in the world, and like we've talked to many players who said that like he's one of few that they would only play with. And so yeah, ceiling would absolutely be a win. Floor is a more interesting one, because I do feel like this team always tends to be wild cardish. Like this should be another shoe-in for a finals, but some weird shit can happen where like we sometimes see them miss. Like I guess it's not the same situation. It's two different players, but like last year, Timmy Jim Burton design, I don't think would have missed finals, but they did. Now this
Mhm.
team is significantly more well-rounded, better, and like I'll say that for sure, and more practiced. But yeah, like this just seems like there's always just kind of like a wild card aspect there. The only thing is, last land we didn't even get to see them at 100% phony with all the health issues he was going through, which possibly even extended throughout earlier in the year. I heard of other stuff going on. So yeah, ceiling, win, floor, I think should also be finals. I don't really expect them to fall out. I would be absolutely surprised if they did, but also would probably say like I knew like that there could be a little bit of a wild card aspect there. I don't know.
So, Donnie, when you look at 100 Thieves, and maybe for people on the surface, they know the names, but as far as the team goes and as far as their composition, what is something that people can take from this in the aspect of getting ready for champs and something they need to look out for as we get ready for Sapporo?
Well, it's been a team that's been kind of fun to watch throughout scrims. I think if there's 2 or 3 teams that I've been very interested to watch during this international scrims period, 100 Thieves has been one of them because Balverine like came in a little bit more recently through this entire season, and I really feel like his focus that at least I've seen has been the way they communicate with each other. Because I think if there was a weakness with this team, it really was that. Because when you have 3 guys that are very knowledgeable, that have all one at the top level, that are all very experienced, very well known players in the game, it's very easy to develop what some people would call an ego, right? And like you probably say at times, like these guys have had like that happen, whether it's, they just think they're right or they think that things should be done a certain way all the time. Like, but that's what's part of being a great player, right? It's like you're going to have that. It's just balancing that out with 2 other guys that are like minded in that case. That's where problems can arise when you have 3 guys that all think they did the right thing when it could be that all 3 of you were wrong. Like it's just one of those things that any great team has to balance out. And I think what's been cool is that like you really have seen an emphasis on like, at times like phony should be the only one communicating, or hey, you're instead of communicating this, you need to be focused on this. Like you've definitely really seen a very big emphasis on the smaller details that maybe a lot of viewers don't pay too much mind to because everyone just wants to see who's the best 3v3 fragging team. Like those small details in the big moments when an IGL is trying to call like that final fight to take the God spot, like those are the things that make you from good to great, from great to super teams. And if they can continue to develop down the road they're on right now, I 100% think they should be one of the top 3-4 teams as like a land contending team. It's just if they fall back down that slope of the comms just, not the right person saying the right thing at the right time, or having 3 different opinions and not working together to become like one great plan, that's where we could see like, oh, they just got like 15th in the final, weren't even like relevant. Like that, I think is ultimately, I agree with Jumbo. Like them not making finals would be a shock. Like that would be something that I think a lot of people will talk about for a long time. But it's just one of those things that like if they trust the plan, if they trust each other and really work together with their comms, layering things well, because that's something I always like to see is like how well do the comms like layer out. Like if you have 3 people just shouting, it's impossible to come up with a plan. But you have somebody that's a little bit louder, somebody that maybe is a little bit more quiet, but kind of says the right thing at the right time. Like I'd say like a Reps was a player like that. Like he wasn't the most talkative, but he said like the right thing at the right time, or called out the right rotate at the right time to help Hal. Like that's what made Reps so great. And if Verls and Jim Burton can kind of do the same thing and kind of let Phony cook at times, Phony's one of the best calling IGLs in the game. So as long as those 2 can layer in their comms with his plan, this team is easily one of the best teams here. So I'm very excited to see what it looks like in terms of their comps. I know you mentioned it real quick. They had started very heavy Newcastle with Evan on the Newcastle at all times. I think they'll still use that at LAN, but on Storm Point especially, if they played from Edge, they've been experimenting with out a Newcastle and without a ring console legend, and being very aggressive with like a crypto Valk and like Bang, and just being very aggressive playing from Edge. So we'll have to see if they pull that out, if they get like an Edge POI on Storm Point. But for the most part, I think you'll see Phony on like those rotating characters like the Valk, the Altar, the Wraith. You'll see Evan on the Newcastle. He's even experimented with like Mad Maggie a bit. And then Jin Burton, I think, will be the console legend or the crypto. Like those will kind of be their main roles.
I was going to quickly throw out, like, that was actually something I meant to mention even when I was talking and I forgot. So I was happy you brought it up. Is that, yeah, once I saw Balvern come in there and like help work on a lot of those team aspects, that's when you started to see a lot of things start swinging to a significantly more positive direction. Because I think it was happening a bit before him, but he came in and it seemed like he really added a lot to that team. So really excited to see where they continue to go there. And yeah, I agree with Johnny. I think they could be one of the best. We've seen amazing teams fall though. So it's more so where I think Wyatt was saying there's no way you see Alliance. Oh, I'm gonna get killed for saying something like this. Actually, I feel like
you want me to
I
say
feel like
instead?
there's.
Because
I was gonna
know
say
what you're
like
gonna say.
what am I gonna say? Let's see.
100 Thieves does not strike me the same way Alliance does, because like you guys have mentioned, like they just have this feel that something could theoretically go wrong. Whereas with Alliance, I don't think it could. I honestly don't think anything could happen to Alliance. The 100 Thieves, there's like that weird little, it's 98% you're good, but there's like that little, there's something. There's something. And
It will
maybe
like
it just stems from their early disappointment of how they first started, even though they've done well in these lands. But
yeah.
I don't know. I feel what you're trying to say, though.
It will be like a losers bracket round 2, 11th place by 1 point. You're just like, fuck.
Yes. Yeah. No, I could see that happening. Like, I could see that happening. But I like that. I like that a lot, because I was kind of feeling the same way. I do think they will make finals, though. I do think they're going to make it. Now let's move into the next team here.
Finals now, and that we just talked about.
Another team, Wolves Esports, and I really want to talk about Wolves because they have really come on strong here. And for people who are really just more involved with the NA scene, you're really missing out on a very good squad. Don't for whatever you do not try to watch Wolves in any other sports. Especially not soccer, because they are dead last in the Premier League. They haven't won a game yet, and the season, it's been a season so far. They have not won a singular game.
Their
Wolves
esports teams, though.
Shout out their esports teams. Wolves Esports has been awesome. They're from APAC South. Their IGL is crazy. And then they have Donut and I Hate the World / No Name, depending on if they allow him to have the name, on the squad as well. And they are coming off of their quite possibly their best ever land performance as a team. It is their best land performance as a team. They got 5th place at EWC and arguably could have won the whole damn thing. They were sitting right there at the final at the end. And unfortunately, they just couldn't close it out. But Wolves Esports went into that next pro league with a vengeance, and they went absolutely insane. It just seemed like they were winning all the time, and they were just doing the best that they could. They were rocking out. Now, Don, I want to throw it to you first this time. For people who don't watch APAC South, for people who don't know what this team is all about, what is kind of their MO, and what is something to watch for when it comes to Wolves Esports in Sapporo?
Well, it's been interesting to watch with this team because they're, in terms of like the LAN experience, they're definitely relatively like on the newer side, because No Name has the most LANs with 3 on the squad heading into Japan. So in terms of just the overall LAN experience, like they've got a couple under their belt as per player, but nothing too crazy. But when they've come together and played well, again, 5th place at the most recent LAN, EWC, and performed very well. And again, we had talked about really that APAC South kind of come up in that LAN being the first, like, man, like APAC South is like here, and they are definitely the second best region in the world right now. And I definitely think Wolves is a big part of that. They've been very consistent throughout most of the year. They finished in the top 10 in overall champs points, which is what qualified them for getting to this event. But yeah, they're just gonna be a team that I think is gonna be very balanced attack when it comes to placement and kills. They definitely have shown an ability to get a lot of kills, but they also shown a really good ability of being able to close and win a lot of games. So it's gonna be a team that, like, you don't necessarily expect that they're gonna put up 15, 20 kills from edge, but they get on a run of 3v3s in a row, you'll be like, oh man, they just dropped like a 25-point bomb. Like, it's they're going to be a team that is going to be a lot more balanced than I think some of their other APAC South counterparts. But I think that's going to be one of their biggest strengths, because being able to close out a match point is obviously one of the toughest, if not the toughest things in competitive Apex. And if there's one thing they did very well this split was win games during their pro league. So I'm really excited to see what this team can do at arguably the biggest event that they'll play together so far as a trio heading into Japan. And I mean, just even with their comps, like they really haven't been too big so far during scrims with like the crypto per se, which a lot of these like aggressive teams out of APAC South will use crypto to kind of like crypto EMP and then drop on somebody's head. Like Gen G, for example, is like a big proponent of having the crypto in their lineup most of the time. But yeah, I mean, they'll run the Newcastle, they'll run the Ramparts. I mean, we've seen No Name during some of these international scrims drop like 3,000 damage because he just sits behind a Rampart wall and just sprays people to death. It's kind of insane because obviously they have unlimited ammo. So they can just sit on top of Godspot and just sit there and just cause absolute chaos. So we get in one of those Olympus games where they get Godspot in the Garden Zone. I mean, Wolves might just get 20 kills and not have to move. But it's going to be a lot of fun to see this team. Again, No Name. If there's one guy to kind of pick from this roster, it's going to be him. He's going to be the one making the plays, putting up the damage. He was first in their pro league in damage. He was third in kills, and mainly this because there was a guy named Asia from that pro league that was pretty good at kills. But yeah, a team that you definitely want to keep your eye on. I wouldn't quite put in like the same category as like the Alliance or the Falcons or 100 Thieves, but they are like the step below them. Like I think it's going to be a team that if we see the same form that we've seen throughout the past few months, they will be potentially that third, fourth, fifth team that hits match point and could be a real factor in our match point final.
Jumbo, I'm going to play the quick little game of ceiling and floor. What's the ceiling? What's the floor for Wolves Esports?
I think they're a team that can get around top 10 to top 5 for sure, the way they just did. I also wouldn't be surprised if, they miss finals. It's going to be a little bit of a different format. So consistency is going to be a huge thing. And we've just generally seen on mind you, actually, the APAC South teams always tend to do good on land, so I can't really say that. But like, I was just going to say that in general, like, yeah, on land, global scale, different teams, guys you don't play a lot against very often. The teams outside of NA tend to struggle with being consistent at lands from land to land. So yeah, so like I can see them missing it, but like I could also see them getting top 10, top 5, because if they get there, like Donnie just went through, like very dangerous team, very skilled, puts out lots of damage, and I've even been watching the game and like work on a video for the game that they won at EWC. They just played like a really good, like I have it all translated, and like when you watch it, they just played like a really good methodical game that was almost like they landed at the complete other side of the map, managed to get a position in zone early enough that was free, where they just played a zone game despite should have been an edge team, and they win the game. So yeah, like they could do it all. And I just love the name Donut, don't you? Like that's just such a I'm a big donut guy, so I just love the name Donut. So definitely on their side.
And you got a guy Crazy Donut. Kong as your IGL. I mean, that's just a great statement to put out there. So.
Crazy Kong, Donut, and No Name. Like I think those are 3. Like if you ask me names wise, like those are 3 S tier names for sure.
What's that one team, Dawn, where it was like Flap Flip and some other Oob Dong or something?
It's Five Fears.
Yeah,
they were Fa Fifth. Yeah, Go Gap. Yeah.
And Gop Gap, dude. Gop Gap's gotta be my favorite name in all of Apex. I love Gop Gap.
When the guy who did it was the host, Barney of freaking EWC, he literally had to say, like, imagine like really like epic tone of voice shouting to a crowd, and you're gonna say "Fa Fiv" walking up.
It is so legendary. It is absolutely legendary.
Yeah, but Wolves is an exciting team. Top 5 last land.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point too, because we have seen teams that do well at a LAN, and you kind of almost expect it to happen again, but because they're such a new team and consistency is such a hard thing to achieve in a BR, and it's kind of incredible that some of the teams we know and talk about all the time have been able to do it with all the different changing in metas, characters, weapons, maps, whatever it may be, There are just certain teams and players who've been able to hold it down like a Hal, but there are teams that do have the benefit of like a specific comp or a specific time in Apex that maybe they never got back to that form. Can Wolves show us and prove that they are one of those teams that can stay consistent despite the changes from then to now?
Well, the big thing for me, and again, we always see teams who just like show up to their first land and show out. Happens all the time. But the big thing for me is that, like, especially in the format that we're going back to, but like so much of the game comes down to how much do you know the other teams in the lobby. And so when you have like your teams who have been to every single land, or like, there's a lot of NA teams always and a lot of EU teams like that make it deep. And like I said, like Apex South actually does really good. Like they do better than EU. But still, like, you just know what people are gonna do. Like you'll listen to comms and you'll literally hear NA pro players say that is so and so because they play this building every single time in this zone. And so will Wolves have that experience to know who's where and what in what position to be able to accomplish the same thing. Again, listening to their comms, they do a bit, but it's not like, and I'll even say, like, when I'm thinking of international teams, the APAC teams, like Gen G is a good example of a team who's been to a lot of lands, who have players who've been to a lot of lands, like Dexter, and knows how these guys play, so that they go and they say NIP's in that building because they're freaking aware of how NIP would play a game because they've played against these guys before. And obviously they could use some like, logic of like, okay, NIP's the closest team to this building, so they're going to be in there. But you just see it from like the teams that have like that LAN experience, which this one is lacking a bit. And then like when you talk about, again, back to the ping, you can't scrim, they don't get to learn what the other teams do as well compared to these guys get to scrim against them 2 times a day, 300 days a year. So yeah, that's the biggest kind of wild card aspect there.
So then we move into Citadel Gaming, another team from EMEA with Remix Power, Zuni, the IGL, and then Kashida. This one, Don, where do we start here with Citadel Gaming? Where for people who don't get to see EMEA, even though it's kind of close to NA, it's a little bit easier to watch. Where do you see Citadel Gaming? Where do they kind of rank among the rest of this entire group going to Sapporo right now? Where do you see them at?
So Citadel is going to be one that I'm definitely going to keep my eye on for this LAN in terms of a potential surprise to shock some people. Because I think for people that maybe tune in every so often or kind of jump back in at LANs, they're going to see Citadel Gaming and just be like, oh, it's just another like EMEA team. But I really do think that if we get the best version of this team, I think a dark horse top 5 is possible. Because I say that because when they're on a roll with their fights, their 3v3 potential is very strong. I think that they are able to put up a lot of KP and put up those big games that you need to either qualify through a group stage or get yourself the match point very quickly. And I think that could be the recipe for success for this team, is getting off to the hot starts, getting into those fights, really getting into kind of the feel of the lobby. I don't think they're going to be a team that like is going to be comfortable going to zone early and sitting there and like playing that way. I think that they're going to be a little bit more edge oriented, looking for fights, kind of get themselves worked into the 6-game set or the finals lobby or whatever it is, and really put up some points. Because each time we see them, whether it's been Pro League or we've seen them in a LAN, they definitely tend to favor towards kill points. I know a few times that they've put up some big games, but you're also playing the double-edged sword with that, right? Like you could take that fight early, and if you run into the wrong team at the wrong time, or you win your 3v3 and get 3-peat early, you also get knocked out very early as well. And like, yeah, you get the 3 points, but you don't get any placement with it. So it's gonna be a team I think could definitely live by the sword, die by the sword kind of mentality. But what I think it's been so interesting is that like they've been able to put it together pretty well so far during scrims, which again, hold it with a grain of salt. I'm not saying scrims is everything, but it is definitely something that can show at least some tendencies of how some things could play out. So it's going to be a team that you definitely want to keep an eye on. Again, they're a team that hasn't really gone to like mainly Newcastle to start with and then crypto. They've been another team that's worked in crypto early to be a little bit more aggressive, because usually it's been all Newcastle to start with. But lately, it's those pick rates have kind of dropped off a little bit. We've seen some more crypto early on. So It's going to be one that, do they decide to drop the Newcastle maybe in a group stage and just play very aggressive with crypto, and then maybe bring in the Newcastle for like a bracket stage or a final, or do they maybe say, hey, let's just go out in our sword and be aggressive with crypto and things like that? It's going to be one, again, a team that I'm definitely going to be watching very closely, because I think the question we've had all year is, who is that team outside of Alliance that can win a LAN for EMEA? And I think Citadel, along with another team we'll obviously talk about during our previews, is really on the short list to be able to pick up the slack. I think if there's one player I think to keep an eye on for this roster, I think it's Zuni. He's somebody that has shown at moments to be able to cruise through a lobby by himself. He's put up some really good numbers, being in top 10 during Pro League, with his performances in kills. And watch out for this team on Stormpoint, because they definitely were one of the best teams at EWC on Stormpoint. And obviously, again, Stormpoint usually tends to play a pretty big factor, especially with it being a little bit more frequently used during the group stages. So a lot to like with this team. But again, if you're going to ask me potentially what their floor is, I could see them missing finals. Like, I think it's that big of a double-edged sword. I think they could be top 5, or I could see them missing finals.
Jumbo, do you agree? Do you kind of see the same thing?
Yeah, everything Don said was pretty spot on. I thought that, like, going into EWC, they're the second best team in EMEA. That, like, their performance at EMEA, I don't think backed up like how good, or like at EWC backed up how good they've been in the past. For context, they put up the third most kills in Split 1 Pro League for EMEA, and then despite coming 8th this past split, they put up the 4th most kills still. So even though they had like that lower placement this time around, they can just ball out with kills. But if you rely too heavy on that and don't get those consistent top placements, like Donnie was saying, die too early sometimes and get a lot of 0-point games, this could be a team that falls into the loser bracket from groups, right? So either way, I'd have huge expectations for them, and I like the idea of putting them as a dark horse team to do some crazy shit that we'd be like, holy crap, didn't see this one coming. But you could also see it like going the other way. So yeah, I think Donnie was spot on.
Now we move into the next team here, and this is my boys at Sentinels.
I think you take this one away.
I'm going to take this one. We got Loader, we got Riley, and we got Carter. IGL is Riley, and they were 7th place at the ALGS Open, 12th place at EWC. Really a team that has stuck together for a very long time, and they've gone through a lot of ups and downs. They've been able to battle through all of these things, and even in some of their worst performances, they've been able to bounce back big time. I think making the finals lobby at EWC was really impressive, because they had kind of showed us the worst of what they could be, and it didn't look good. They were able to bounce back from that, not only make finals, but then almost scrape into the top 10. And I think they had a really bad final to their standards, even worse than like, a lower tier game for them. Some of those games were just rough, but they were able to bounce back big time. They make it into that 12th spot. They really didn't. If I can remember correctly, I don't think they really made noise in that final until near the end. And then they started to come on. And if that goes a little bit further, I think we easily see them make a top 10. It just happened to end at that point. But I'm very like skeptical to place a lot of confidence into Sentinels, not because I don't think they have the talent or the ability, but it's just hard when you have the performances of the last split and then this long break in between. What are we going to get? What are we going to see? This is really a case of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde with Sentinels. You just don't know which version you're going to get. Now, I do think that they can lock in, and they have the potential. If I'm doing ceiling and floor, I think they can make a finals easily. And in fact, if I really want to go their highest ceiling, I think they can make a top 10 inside that finals lobby. But when I look at their floor, it's unfortunate, because I do see a world where maybe, you could see them getting eliminated in like losers round 1, because they just have a bad set, and they've shown that can happen. And really what they're working towards right now as a squad, as a unit, is to really kind of hone in and eliminate those types of performances out and be more consistent. We just haven't seen it yet. And the break and the scheduling this season, I don't think has helped them at all. I think if it was a regular, like, let's just say year 4 Apex season, I think we'd get a much more good, like, version of who we think they are. It's just been really tough with how the season has played out. So I'm interested to see what happens. I root for the squad no matter what every single time. I think they have really good comms when things are going well. And I want to see what they can bring to the table at Champs right now. I think they definitely deserve to be here despite some of those tough performances. I think they are a team that is really impressive when they can put it all together, but we need to see some consistency. And that's what I'm hoping for the most from Sentinels. You guys have anything to add on to that?
I mean, I would just say real quick, I think the biggest key with this team is just their confidence as a team. I think if they are confident, they trust in their calls, they trust in each other. I think they can definitely put together a very solid performance. I do think top 10, at least at this current time, is a little bit of a stretch for me. But for a team that got 7th and 12th, I don't think it's impossible for them to get to that area. If I had to pick where I think they could end up, it's going to be like kind of scraping into finals and kind of going from there. And I could see them potentially going out day one if things go pretty poorly to start with. But I think like a team like this where the three together is going to be bigger than any one person can do, because for the teams like Alliance, right, Effect can like change a lot for you, or a Koifel for Shopify. Like even when they're playing bad, one crazy moment from a guy like that like can instantly turn their day. I don't think they currently have somebody like that. I think just them as a team is really what's going to push them forward. And if they can come out and play well from the start, I think we'll see the good version. But if they struggle those first couple games, I could easily see that carry over throughout the rest of the groups, and unfortunately to a poor performance. But again, we've seen it. At both lands this year, they have the capability. It's just, can they be confident enough themselves to make it happen?
I'm so glad you brought that up too, because they do have that weird ability as a team where you can't really pinpoint like a star. Um, if somebody put a gun to my head and said you have to pick one, I would pick Carter. But it just seems like whether it's a pro league day or, group stages at LAN, losers at LAN, whatever it may be, it just seems like one of them grabs the reins and just kind of decides to dominate. But then you go to the next group day or group stage day, you go to the next pro league day, and that person takes a backseat, and then somebody else from the squad steps up and takes over. It's like it's really hard for them to kind of put together, any one of them consistent performances in a row. If I had to pick one, though, I would say their wild card, their player that can make it go and make them reach the ceiling, which, like I said, would be a top 10 in the finals. I think it would be Carter.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is so a while back I had to interview Greek just on my channel, and like when talking to him and everything like that, and like his career, he had said something to me that always kind of stuck, and it was about like the teams that like the separated like the good teams from like the greatest teams was like when you came to a spot in the game where you had a fork in the road and you had to go left or right, and one was the decision that's going to get you killed and one decision that's winning you the game, and you had to make that, and that like his team was a team that like unfortunately picked the wrong fork of the road more often than not. And this might seem like a weird anecdotal point I'm making here, but Sentinels has always struck me a little bit like that. Like better because like you said, 7th, 12th, like they've got to like deep like LAN finals and everything like that. But like, yeah, it's just that like, right now I think they have a lot of like good going for them. We've seen it time and time again. We've seen them win games in these lobbies, but it just comes down to, are they consistently choosing that right decision at the fork of the road, especially in those late games, is the big thing, right? Like the reason the Howls, the Zeros, those the phonies, those IGL stand out, the Hackers is because they know what to do in that moment, and they get it right most times. So yeah, so that's gonna be like the big thing for me is like, do they like find themselves making those right decisions. But I would say that I hope that no matter what happens at this LAN, I know it's not the most likely thing. Teams like to bounce around a lot. They've been together for a while now, but I'd want to see them continue going forward because they've had one of the cooler stories this year, getting through PSQs. They were on like a relatively smaller org with Empire and then get picked up by Sentinels. And like they continue to perform through the next LAN, like getting top 12 there. And yeah, even though the next split didn't go too well for them, it's just like this was a team that wasn't even pro league before this year, right? This was like basically a challenger circuit squad that is now like, you know, an actual official pro league team. They've made every LAN this year. So yeah, I'd love to hopefully see them stick through it.
And I think that's why I like them so much is because they do remind me, like, when I watch a shit ton of sports, and when it reminds me a lot of hockey and development of players. A lot of times, if you have a good player, usually they just start in the NHL. And when a guy starts in the AHL and then has to make that route from the lower up to the upper, they can get there, and you'll see it every once in a while. But there's always like some players that you just saw that they just could never make that jump. And it sucks because you're like, damn, that's kind of just where they're going to stay at. And what I always loved about Sentinels was they broke through, and not only did they become like a AHL player to like a third, fourth line grinder, they moved up and they were like decent second line winger who could get you some points in key moments. That's what they struck me as. If they are able to make another finals, the third one in a row as a team, dude, you solidified it right there. But are they going to make that jump? It's not going to, it's not that simple. So we'll just have to see what happens there. Let's move on into the next one here. This is Roadhouse. EMEA. We got Blast, Aku, and Lufka as the IGL. Don, it's been a while since I've heard your voice. Let's talk a little bit about Roadhouse. What do the people need to know?
This roster could potentially be a lot of fun. We got two very experienced players, Blast and Lufka. Obviously, we're going to talk about one of the better rosters in year 4. Those two, along with Light, were a very fun story to follow along when it was Gaming Gladiators. Obviously, they turned to this year and things don't quite work out. They pick up Aku, and he has been probably one of the more fun players to see kind of emerge from more of our newer pool of players that have come through EMEA, and kind of maybe one of the better surprises that we've seen. He's been a guy that, again, you want to talk about like a playmaker or somebody that can open up a fight for you. That's his role in this team. You know, Blast and Lufka definitely do a lot of the calling, the IGL, rotate here, do this, do that. Aku does a really good job. He's going to play on the characters like the Bangalore, the Valk, the Altar, the ones that are going to be creating openings, doing the main parts of clearing stuff out to rotate, things like that. So he's going to be a player that definitely is going to be the guy to watch for this team. Because again, I think we're going to know what we get from Blast and Lufka. Again, two very experienced players that know the game, that know how to make a lot of really good decisions at the right time. Again, what Aku, I think his performance is at this LAN, I think is going to determine how far these guys will go. Because if he has a really good LAN and he cooks and he's up there as one of the top fragging players at this tournament, I really do think we could see Roadhouse surprise a lot of people. But they are a team that I almost want to say they might give us a very average performance. Because if he doesn't play as well and they're not winning as many fights, I think we could see them kind of be like a losers round 2 team that goes out like 25th, 26th, 27th. And it's like, okay, they were okay, but like didn't do a whole lot. But there's a lot that could go well. It's just, I think for this team, their floor is better than a good amount of teams, but their ceiling isn't necessarily as high as some of like the title contending teams. But on the right day in a match point final, with the experience they have with Blast and Lufka, along with a player like Aku, if it's a very extended match point format, they could be one of those teams that makes it and ends up winning if it carries out for a while. But a lot of things will have to go their way, I think, for that to happen. But again, could be a very good surprise. And again, one of those couple teams that, hey, Amia, where you're at, this is their opportunity to hopefully put a statement out there for the region.
Anything to add on to Roadhouse, Jumbo?
Not entirely a ton. I mean, like Blast, from when I've listened to comms in the past, like that guy is one of the best at zone calls in like Apex, I would say. Like it's really impressive to see like how knowledgeable he is of like knowing where like that final spot's gonna be. That can only get you so far though. I think that this team, like, or like at least Blast, Luca, when they're playing with Light, they had Liuk there as a coach and everything like that. You bring up very often why about like these teams who really excelled and kind of peaked in the meta, and it seemed like they were like the early adopters of that Newcastle and just played it so well that they peaked at that kind of like Germany land. And ever since, when everyone else caught up, it seems like they fell mid pack. So yeah, I think that like predictions are very similar to what Donnie was saying. Pretty much dead on what I would have said. But you know, I think going into that Germany land, I don't think anyone would have expected that team to be the one that like came out on top with most points overall. So there are, since they have that experience, I think they're a team who can always maybe like revitalize it, even if like I might not be the most confident in this moment in it. But love
Yeah.
Blast, love Lufka, both great competitors, both great players, and want to see them do well at LAN.
Now we move into Legacy here, another America's team. And Legacy is interesting because if you would have asked us a year ago, maybe even a little bit further back, when you hear the name Yanya, Yaguaras, and Nizel, you're like, damn, that's a good team. We are kind of in this weird place right now where the names aren't necessarily lining up with the performances. You look at the year 5 performances, you got 28th place at the Open, 16th at EWC midseason playoffs. 16th, okay, well, you made the finals lobby, but it wasn't in a great place. And I don't know. I don't know with this squad. It just feels like you never know what you're going to get with them. And they did take a break from each other for a little bit. Now they're back. Where do we see them at, Dawn?
I really think for me, like, and I want to make sure I say this respectfully because obviously I think given the right day and if things kind of swing their way, we might see a surprise. I just think for me, the way things are stacking up right now, and kind of even what I'm seeing with not necessarily the results of scrims, but kind of like their patterns in scrims, it almost still feels like they're trying to like refigure out what the roles are with the team. And I think if you're still in that stage, when I know we still have a few weeks out, but like really is a time now where like at the bare minimum you want to at least have like some sort of comps that you can like really be practicing on, so you can more focus on like your timings with rotates, like how teams are playing this comp from this POI, kind of figuring out what POIs you want to play from with the comps that you're playing. But if you're still figuring out kind of like the roles and who's playing what, and like, when I'm saying like who's playing what, like we've had times where Nazul's been on the crypto, we've had times where Yanya's been on the crypto, we have times where Higuaras is doing the console legends, Nazul's doing the console legends. It seems like they haven't quite figured out like how this new version of this trio fits together. And I think that's really spoken in the results this year. I think it's spoken into just a lot of the stats when you look at it, because the biggest thing you think of with this team is like kills, right? Like they were one of the best pure fighting teams we saw for a good stretch. But now they're slightly leaning towards like placement points, at least during the Pro League and EWC midseason playoffs, which you just don't really associate with this team. So I really think it's just a case of an identity issue in trying to figure out the way they want to play and how they can be successful in these current metas. If you put, I had to make a decision where I think they would finish today. I do think they'd struggle to make finals. I could even see them struggling to potentially make losers round 2, unfortunately. Like I do think there's a scenario where they could be one of the first 10 teams going home if things continue to kind of stack up against them. Hopefully we get to see the better version of them, because when we saw them at their height, it was one of the most fun teams to watch. But I do think identity issue is the main thing for this team.
Jumbo, it's weird because it's like it's one of the few teams where I would agree with Don on placement 100%. I don't think they're making finals. I would even say maybe losers round 1. But also, if you said, hey, they just won, I would be like, yeah, it makes sense because they have that talent, they have that ability, and at that time they were fighting really well. Is it enough though?
Yeah, no, I'm more on the side like I don't see a world where they win. I didn't see a world where go next one though. So, the thing is a BR, anything could happen. But I think the biggest thing that like what I was basically going to say if you came to me first is that I think defensive metas and then legend ban. This is a team that has been affected by those two changes like the most of all the teams because like Donnie said they were like a team that really wanted to go for those kills, very aggressive. They like to do zone wrap plays and everything like that, and that shit just doesn't work anymore. Like when crypto's in the meta and then like when crypto gets banned and teams are playing Sparrow, you can't play that sort of like guerrilla warfare type gameplay as effectively anymore. Like a pure example is like in game 7 from EWC where I am working on the video right now. They go for a zone wrap play and it might work. It might not be a zone wrap play. And there's a Sparrow tracker that like reveals them while they're in zone and they just die when they probably should have just fought the team that was right in front of them and never went for the zone wrap. So that's what I mean. Like a lot of the ways that team like to play, excel, and everything like that, Apex has changed. And they have not been able to keep up and adapt. And if they're having role identity issues this point in international scrims 6 weeks out, seems like they're still having troubles figuring that all out. So yeah, like it's unfortunate because like you said, if this was last year, we're probably putting this team in an A or S tier of the list and like a potential win just because their pure fighting ability between when the three of them are rolling is just that good. It's just they were the best or some of the best. So yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't think that the crypto, the Newcastle, the slow play works as well.
So then we move into our final 3 teams. We've got Team Mango here from APAC South. Now, this was an LCQ winner. This was Strafing Flame, Easy Flash, and Crumbs. We obviously know Strafing Flame. We know where he came from. Easy Flash as well. Crumbs, a little bit newer. I think the most recent performance he had was 88th place at the ALGS Open. So not a whole lot of experience there, Don. But what do you have for Team Mango? I mean, we know what Strafing Flame can bring on his best day, but where does this team kind of round out? Do you see anything extraordinary coming from Team Mango?
I'm trying to put this kindly because I definitely want to shit on Strafing Flame because of what he's done and Easy Flash too, but like it was almost a team that just like wasn't even like meant to be together, right? Like they kind of had a bad split when they were playing together the first time, and it was at least I don't know if it potentially between those two specifically, but just the separation itself wasn't the smoothest when the original team broke up when they were playing with Player K. So I didn't really think there was a world where they'd be back together. But you know what? A coin flip apparently puts them back together with Easy Flash.
Yeah,
and they find themselves at champs. If that's not the most Apex story, I don't really know what else is. But I mean, it's all just going to come down to I think just what those two together can really do, because I think they're Crumbs. He's really been on the console legends. It's going to be a guy that's going to be anchoring a lot more of the time. I think we're still kind of attempt to see like that Strafing Flame, Easy Flash kind of communications where they're both on the front line, both looking to be aggressive, both looking to, try to find the right spot at the right time, take the right fight at the right time. And we've seen Easy Flash's capability. He can open up any fight at any time and put up some gaudy kill numbers, but it just doesn't really feel like this time around, like we're going to get that same thing. A lot of it could potentially just be because of the inexperience of Crumbs, but I think it's going to be more of it is just because they've literally only played together basically since LCQ, right? Like they haven't had this long stretch where they've played together where they can kind of iron out a bunch of stuff. And on top of that, in these international scrims, they're APAC South. So at best, when they play game 3 and 4 on APAC South servers, that's all the best practice they're going to get. The rest of the time, they're going to be on like 300 ping. So like, it's not like they're even getting the best practice to really like come together and like create a cohesive game plan for these guys to work out. So it's going to be one of those things that I don't expect too much, but if there's anything that could be fun to see is that dynamic of Strafing Flame and Easy Flash back together. And you just never know. You never know what bringing back some of the OG pairings can do for a team.
Is Strafing Flame another one of those victims, Jumba, that you just mentioned? Like when we talk about the previous team, is Easy Flash another, or sorry, not Easy Flash, Strafing Flame, is he another one of those where it was kind of like right place, right time, meta hit at the right place, but you haven't really been able to like replicate that same kind of performance that he had when he first broke out onto the scene?
I think they got like a fourth with Koiful after. So like it wasn't like it was just one LAN. And then like he's had a third at the Open, which we had Legend Band and everything like that. But I wonder how some people feel about the Open, like because it did end in 6 games. It felt so short. But again, at the same time, a standard Apex lobby is 6 games. So what are we going to say about a person getting third on any Pro League day? We saying they don't deserve it? So I don't think entirely, but yeah, I don't know. I can't really add up for like the inconsistency, like, why sometimes like he's on top and then sometimes he's not qualifying. It just seems like it's if he's on or not. And honestly, I bet if you were to talk to Strafing Flame, it'd be the same thing he'd tell you. Like, I think every time I've talked to him, like there's just, and I'm like, what happened? And it's just like, either he's telling you, I just played the best Apex in my life, or I played the worst. Which is maybe not the best thing, but it's like, yeah, so that's why like I think that you get that. So no, I wouldn't say entirely. I think that he can adapt pretty well, because if you know Strafing Flame's story, he was a guy who was like on top, but like probably didn't take things as seriously as he should have. He's on top in their region, and so he fell short. And so that guy like fucking locked in and put in the work to get himself back out there and make a name for himself, and he did it, like with third, fourth, third at multiple lands now. So yeah, there's that. Entertaining team though. I mean, Straving Flame and Easy Flash being back together. If you ever want some funny comms to listen to, there's like, if they got that same chemistry that they used to have, there's probably not better comms to listen to. They are absolutely hilarious, and if they start rolling and putting up kills, like that's a team where you're listening, they're just having fun the whole time. So yeah, I hope they do. I hope they do. Kind of lock in, play well. Love my boy Strafing. I know I've been saying that about a lot of these players, because I feel like I've been a little tapped out on Apex, and as they're going through this list, I'm like, damn, I'd be so happy if this guy won. Like as we just keep going through it, I'm getting back into it.
I think the good thing about Apex too, though, is like sometimes you don't even necessarily have to win to do something great, and to just have some of these good performances. Like we spoke about Sentinels earlier, and it's like they haven't done anything extraordinary, but they've done some things where I'm like, oh, this is a good story and I can follow along. And that's the fun part about Apex, and kind of how Strafing Flame's story started,
Well, that's what I mean. Like if we want to go through like Strafing Flame, when they were Blackhand, had that breakout year 3 champs tournament, they like were on top, and everyone thought that they were potentially going to win it. They won the winners bracket, and then honestly, they had that 3v3 versus Falcons. If they win, they're in that position the Falcons won from. Then they get 4th with Koiful, do great at that tournament, and then we have EWC, where they did amazing in group stages. They came 2nd to Falcons in their group, and they were amazing. And then they did shit in that 13-game final until Strafing Flame had probably the greatest game, like play in Apex history. I think it's the greatest game in Apex history. To this day, I am devastated the footage does not exist. I think I've said this on the podcast before. I've tried. I've called the right people. I've tried to get that footage. It does not exist. I can't get it. I have the map, but I can't get anything else. Anyways, it bums me out, because I think it was such an amazing moment when he made that solo clutch to push the game one more tournament, even though it didn't mean much. Alliance just went and won after, because it basically shut down Alliance's game. And then again, like, I thought that they were going to win, or like they had a chance of, like, if Falcons didn't win, to win over in the Open. And I thought that would have been really awesome for, Pricey too. A good team. So whenever Strafing Flame is in a tournament and playing well, there's like just some of the best stories in entertainment happening. So I feel like you need him there. So I hope he does good.
Now, our final two teams both come from APAC South, and both kind of came from similar circumstances. I should not really, but kind of. The APAC South split to regional final winner. That was Boogie Borders. And then outside, which is the APAC South LCQ second place. So those both had to come in through a placement. They were able to secure it. We'll kick it off with Boogie Borders first here. Let's go to you first, Don. What do you see from Boogie Borders? For people who don't know who they are, what info would you give them for Boogie Borders? Where do you think their ceiling and floor is?
Yeah, I mean, for Boogie Borders, them winning that regional final, I think definitely was quite the surprise for a lot of people, especially with the way Genji and Wolves had played all year, and even a couple other teams, during that split had played. Boogie Borders definitely had a good split, but it definitely was not. It was definitely a surprise that they won. And
wasn't it? How long was it before that Pana hadn't played? Because he had taken a break from Apex for a bit.
It had been a while, yeah. Like I can't really remember like the last time I had seen him on a roster. But while he's looking that up, I mean, it was it was kind of crazy to see because they come out in the first game of that regional final, I remember, and they're running Revenant, which is just like not what anybody was playing from K1 back then. And they come out, and I think it was like SAUL or like one of the more favorites in the regional final to potentially win it. And they just mow them down in a 3v3. And I'm like, oh, like Boogie Borders is here to like play today. And they just got off to a very solid start. They didn't do anything crazy kind of in the middle games, but they ended up winning a crazy 3v3v3 on World's Edge, where I think it was Strafing Flames team actually that had the high ground on the hill. And there's two teams in the building. And somehow Boogie Borders was able to escape. I think Metro had like a Kraber shot or some big pick on the Strafing Flames team, which allowed them to escape the. It was absolutely crazy, and I remember watching just being like, "What is happening?" But if you want a name from this team to watch and potentially a name at this tournament, if they are able to make some noise, it's going to be Metro. He's, I believe, 17, so obviously one of our younger players that's going to be playing at the LAN and really just professional Apex right now. But he has definitely started to build his brand. He's subbed in for some pretty big teams because his teammates aren't always able to scrim. I actually don't think Pano or Raki, that at least I've seen, has scrimmed like at all. When he's scrimmed with like Boogie Borders, it's been like with subs. So Metro has been grinding. He's been in as many scrims as I could see. And again, he subbed in for like 100 Thieves, and they won the match point block when Phony wasn't there. It was literally him, Evan, and Jen Burton, and they won a match point block, which is kind of nuts that the IGL is out, and they end up winning that format. And especially because he's over in APAC South, so like his ping is terrible. So like his ability to put up kills in open fights is going to be really what dictates how far these guys can shock people. I think it will be a shock for them to even really make losers round 2, in my opinion. If they are able to kind of spark what they did during regional finals, maybe they can make a shock run to like the back end of finals. But they're going to be a team that definitely I think will have to battle out in the bracket stages. But if they decide to come out and be aggressive and maybe are able to win some fights early during the group stages, who knows? Maybe they can put together a nice little run and shock some people. But again, Metro, keep an eye on his name, because again, I think he's gonna be a player that, even if maybe Champs doesn't go well this year, I think next year even too is gonna be a name that everyone's gonna start to get to know.
And then our final team here, outside from APAC South as well, LCQ second place. They get in from that final spot. 115th place at the Open is this team's overall best placement, and one of the players has not made it to a LAN at all. And so this one, Dawn, I'm sure is going to be really all you here. Unless do you know something, Jumbo?
No, I was gonna say I've spent a lot of time on Wikipedia, and I don't know if I've ever seen them actually list 115th place for any tournament. Not to make fun of this team, I didn't know that, and I had to go look and see if they actually put 115 there. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, I was thinking zombies immediately when I said 115, but like I just because like even back in those open tournament days when they used to have hundreds of teams, they didn't put the placements for those teams. So either way, sir, no, I unfortunately, and I mean this with no disrespect, I don't know anything about the team. I don't. But guess what? I hope they teach me something this tournament.
Yeah,
that happens a lot.
Well.
That happens a lot.
I will say, like, just as an open question for all of us here, like, if you placed that bad in a tournament, I think, like, would you want that number to be stated, or would you just want to be like, went to the tournament, didn't make finals, like, how would you want because my opinion is, if I get a specific number, like if I get something funny, like either dead last, 69th, something like that, like, yeah, then I'll say it. But like when you just throw out the 115, it's kind of tough, right?
Well, let's see how many teams was that out of, because like there wasn't a. So it was out of 149.
149. No, yeah, 180 were invited, but only 149 showed.
160 were invited, but like only.
Okay, I just don't know what I'm talking about then.
That's actually more. I thought that like less showed up. I thought like 20 teams didn't show up. It was only 11.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I that's a great question, Wyatt. Because like my thing would be like, especially because gaming is still such a niche thing. If I came back to like came home and it's like, oh, you went to that game tournament, like you like fucking were competing, like how'd you do? Like, no shot. I'm going, yeah, 115th.
Yeah, and it's weird too, because in other sports, like let's just say for instance, you get drafted to the NFL, but you kind of like don't really make the roster. You go to the practice squad, and then let's just say you hang up the cleats. I'm done, right? You tell people that you were a practice squad player on an NFL roster, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, that's fucking
sick,
dude. That's awesome."
It was you tell somebody you got problem.
Yeah,
because like if I
got 115th, people are like,
yeah, but if I went to LAN for like the standard format that we've always had in Apex, even if I got 40th, I'm still a pro. I'm still a LAN pro player. Because like I'll put it this way, and those guys are significantly probably better than me. I mean, they're going to LAN again. They did qualify there, and now they can say it, even if they get 40th. But like I'll give you, like when I was playing with some of these pro players in that thing with E, some guys who aren't even going to these LANs, like J-Dot, fucking, I was playing with this guy. I was like, what am I experiencing right now? This guy is fucking bizarre at this game. And he couldn't even qualify for LAN. So if you could qualify for the LAN, that means you got to be pretty fucking sick. Mind you, they were first pro league. They dealt with some BS throughout the whole year. They probably would have qualified for this LAN. But nonetheless, I'm just saying, like, these guys are like insane. Like, I don't know if you're getting 149th at the open. If you're probably better than most Apex player, but still, like, I don't know if you're that insane.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask that question. I just wanted to see what you guys thought.
I do always feel bad when I do these guides. I'm like, oh, their only performance is like, 129th out of 130 teams at a LAN. It's just like, I hate putting it, but it's like the format I do for everybody. So I just kind of keep it the same. But yeah, I mean, really for this team, it's really just mainly going to be a case of like, we're happy we're qualified, happy to be at a LAN. Unfortunately, don't really expect too much to happen for these guys when it comes to a result. Again, they had placed 10th during the Pro League, and again, were another pretty big surprise in terms of qualifiers when it came to LCQ. Was not really the team during that. I think one of the teams was Roy's team, which I forget the name of the team. I think it was Deep Cross Gaming. They had an insane start during that LCQ, and unfortunately ran out of steam at the end to where Outside was able to qualify. But it's going to be a team that it might be a tough one to be completely honest. But again, anytime you qualify for a LAN, gotta try to take advantage of the opportunity while you're there. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, big shout out to those guys. And another team from all Thailand team as well, which is, again, just another country that I've really started to see like pick up in teams that qualify for LAN. So it's always fun to see some new names, some new faces reach the pinnacle of LAN tournaments.
But yeah, so that should just about do it, ladies and gents, for the first preview show. Group A is in the books. Don't forget to keep a lookout for groups B, C, and D as we get ready for champs. No heart to heart this week. No heart to heart on these types of episodes just for the preview show. We're just trying to get all the teams previewed, ready to go, and get you guys informed for Sapporo so that when it is time and we are watching, that we will be ready to go. Also, don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button because I believe we will be going live for the first time ever on this YouTube account while we watch, because Dawn will be in person with the boys and we will be streaming from this here studio, and it should be a very, very good time. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go subscribe. If you listen on audio, you might as well subscribe, because if you're going to be watching the games, you might as well be watching them with the boys in the background. So we'll have all that ready to go. And then Jumbo will be on location. So maybe we give him a quick call. Maybe we call him after one of the games and just have him update us from inside the arena.
Winners bracket day. Call me winners bracket day. I'll be able to take a call. That'll probably be like the more entertaining day to, chat with me there too.
And we're going to give you, I kind of want to give the fans, the listeners, like I want to give them the most important information. So I want you to go to the concourse and I want you to show them the food situation and what it's like, because I think they would care about that.
Yeah, I can do that. I can try, and if we get on the Discord, I can try and turn on the cam with the phone, and if I have a good enough connection down there, try and like get you guys some live footage. Maybe see a pro player walking out around and stop them for a quick interview live on pod.
Yeah, one like a 2-question interview.
Yeah,
and then we'll use their face and their name for the thumbnail and the title.
Yep. Yeah, if you guys are out there, make sure to come find me. Come say hello.
Yes, sir.
And I'll forge White's signature.
Hell yeah, baby. All right, well, ladies and gents, that should do it for Group A. Be ready for Groups B, C, and D. We'll catch you guys soon. See ya.
See ya.